Hey, welcome back. In this video session, we are going to be talking about conditioning. Now, some of you may know what conditioning is, some of you may not. So let me tell you a little bit about what this process takes. It's a little bit like the restorative cleaning. You're going to be using a black pad with a slow speed scrubber. You're going to be using E-strip, about probably 24 ounces to 1 gallon of water, and you need to have a sprayer. So what conditioning is when you have basically a room where you have the same dye lot from the same rolls, but there's a slight shade off. And you'll notice it, you can barely see it right now in this room here. And the difference between restorative cleaning and conditioning is so different. When you're conditioning a floor, you're basically going to be moving at a very, very slow speed, building up your slurry. And again, just like restorative cleaning with a black pad, you got to make sure that you have enough E-strip on the ground. If not, you're liable to burn the floor. With this, I'm going to show you a step-by-step process of letting it spray. It sits for 5 to 10 minutes. You'll go back over again and spray it again, and then you're going to build up a slurry that's going to be transferring essentially color back and forth. Now, when I say color, I don't want you to freak out to think that the floor is losing all its color. What you're doing is basically transferring that color from one seam to the other and back and forth. So it's like a slow paintbrush, if you could look at that, with the slur that's going across. So we'll go ahead and show you how to do that right now. Again, the most important thing to make sure when you're using a black pad, as I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure the black pad is completely soaked and saturated, so when it hits the floor and goes on, it won't get stuck and it won't burn the floor. So in this particular conditioning, I'm going back and forth over the seam. Typically you want to go about 8 to 12 inches over each seam, and probably no more than 4 feet down that stretch. And again, as soon as I spray it, I'm going to set my timer for 5 to 10 minutes. You can be the judge of that. Let's start off with 5 minutes, and we'll go from there. So when you're conditioning across the seams and trying to blend back and forth the color, you're not just trying to get the seams, but you're going to be going across the whole rubber. Where you're going to be breaking up that color on each side is on the seams and spreading it across the room. Now, that doesn't mean you have to start on one side and work your way across the whole room. It's just in the areas that are affected lighten. So in this particular shot where the seam is, we're going to carry it probably 8 to 12 inches into each rubber roll. By then it will break up and should be blended right across the roll. In some extreme cases, you may have to blend across the whole 4-foot shot width, and that's fine too. You can do that. You'll be basically taking that slur and going all the way back across and back across very slow. And again, when we talk about slow, we're talking about going 3 seconds and probably inches. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'll show you on the video, but you're going to go very slow. It's very different from restorative cleaning like we did on the platforms. Again, this is about how fast you want to go back and forth. You can already see we've got a lot of slur going. We sprayed this pretty well, and that's fine. It's better to have more than 0. Again, you do not want to burn the floor. Now, since this floor is gray and obviously it's dirty a little bit, you will start seeing a light swirl. So that's a mixture of dirt and a little bit of that color, but we're going back and forth again. We'll get you a close-up of the swirl. So again, when you're doing this speed, you can notice that I'm barely moving this scrubber back and forth. I'm probably moving maybe 4 or 5 inches every 4 or 5 seconds. And again, you're seeing that swirl move around, that slurry. Now, as you can see, after you've got your slurry mixed across, and it's a nice, you know, thick enough that you can see it. It is extremely important that this gets extracted off the floor. And again, there's no compromise when it comes to this. You have to have a walk-behind scrubber that has that vacuum attachment behind that will literally pick up this E-strip. Now, you can also have the scrubber, the auto scrubber. What I suggest is you pick it up with the vacuum piece on the auto scrubber first, then follow back through with the scrub brushes. And again, you're probably going to want to either use a soft vinyl brush on that or the red pad. And again, the reason you're doing that is because it's loosening up everything and it's moving it around. The red pad is not aggressive, it's a great cleaning pad. And what I'll show you right now when we do it with this next run. So your first pass, you go through and you pick it up. Second pass, we're turning the auto scrubber on to pick up any loose E-strip. Or any remnants of the E-strip that's left over. So know that now that the floor has been, all the E-strip is up and extracted, your floor is going to be very wet. So in order to know whether or not this has been a successful conditioning, without question you need to have fans on hand to make sure you can put them on there and slowly dry. Now, the key to a great conditioning is that 1, it's slow, 2, it's methodical, and 3, you might have to do it more than once. So that's why this type of method, when we talk about conditioning, might be really a very slow process, but it is a process that works as long as you put all those 3 keys together. So we'll put a fan on here right now and we'll see how it turned out drying.